I never imagined my life would flip upside down in just 48 hours. One moment I was driving home from a late meeting, exhausted, brain fried, thinking about nothing but a hot shower and sleep. Next moment, bright headlights, a screech, a crunch that sounded like the world collapsing, and then darkness swallowing me whole like a damn black hole. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed that smelled like bleach and broken spirits. Tubes in my arms, gauze on my forehead, the steady beep of a monitor that made my skull throb. My vision was blurry at first, silhouettes floating around me. But the moment I blinked myself back into the world, the first face I saw was hers. My wife, Monica. Or at least, the woman who used to be my wife in every way that mattered. She didn't look relieved. She didn't look worried or heartbroken or thankful that her husband survived a crash that could have left him in pieces. No, she looked annoyed, like my being alive inconvenienced her breakfast plans. Finally awake, she muttered, arms crossed tight over her chest. No hug, no touch, no worms. I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry, so I just nodded. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask what happened. Hell, she didn't even try to fix my pillow like she normally did. Instead, she said, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. My injured ass thought she wanted to know about the accident. No, are we broke? Her voice was sharp, like a blade she couldn't wait to sink into me. My confusion must have been obvious because she looked irritated, like I was wasting her time. Monica, what are you talking about? I croaked. The business, she snapped. Your consulting firm. Has it collapsed? Did you lose your clients? Because the credit card got declined yesterday, and I know that only happens when people are broke. I wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, but because the irony punched me harder than the damn car crash. Yes, my credit card got declined, but not because of me. A week earlier, I found charges I didn't recognize. Noticed money missing from accounts only two people had access to, me and her. So I froze some cards temporarily while investigating. I didn't tell her yet because I wanted to confirm, but she didn't know that part. And clearly, she wasn't asking for clarification. She was taking inventory of my financial worth like someone checking the value of a used car before dumping it. We're not broke, I whispered, shifting on the bed, my ribs screaming. I handled it. The card was frozen because of fraud. She stiffened. I saw it. The tiny flicker in her eyes, the quick inhale. Fraud. She knew. She damn well knew. But in that moment, she didn't confess. She simply said, oh. But it wasn't an innocent oh. It was an oh shit. Before I could even process her reaction, the doctor walked in, announcing I'd be stuck in the hospital for a few days. Monica barely reacted. She grabbed her purse and said, I have errands to run. I'll be back later. She didn't kiss my forehead, didn't hold my hand, didn't even say, I'm glad you're okay. She left faster than the doctor finished his sentence. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe she was overwhelmed. But deep down, I knew something was off. And it wasn't new. It had been festering for months. She'd been distant, secretive, glued to her phone. She hadn't been affectionate. She hadn't initiated anything, conversations, intimacy, plans. Nothing. But I was naive, foolishly hopeful that it would resolve on its own. The truth was uglier. 2 hours later, I lay half asleep when Monica came back. Except this time, she wasn't alone. She brought a man with her. Some random attorney I'd never seen in my life. He had a folder under his arm and a greasy smile that made me want to punch him even with broken ribs. What's going on? I asked, forcing myself upright. Monica didn't sit, didn't touch me, didn't soften her face. I'm filing for divorce, she said flatly. My brain short-circuited. What? We're done, she said. I can't do this anymore. I won't stay in a marriage where I have to guess whether I'll have a roof over my head next week. Roof? We lived in a fully paid-off home. Mortgage-free. She knew that. But this wasn't about stability or fear or anxiety. This was about convenience and greed. Her lawyer stepped forward. If you sign these papers today, we can fast-track the process. Given the circumstances, my client is willing to be reasonable. Reasonable. At my damn hospital bedside, while I was hooked to machines. I stared at Monica, searching her face for guilt, remorse, something human. Nothing. Why are you doing this? I whispered. She shrugged like we were discussing dinner plans. People fall out of love. It happens. But her eyes said something else. Something cold. Calculated. I'll let you read everything, her lawyer said. Setting the papers on the tray table like it was a restaurant check, they turned to leave. And right before she walked out, I caught a whisper, her whisper. Soft but venomous, spoken to the attorney. He thinks he's not broke. He's clueless. The door closed behind them, and for the first time since waking up, the pain in my chest wasn't from the crash. It was from betrayal. I laid there stunned, staring at the divorce papers like they were written in a language I'd never seen. My wife, the woman I built a life with, was leaving me because she thought I was broke. Not unhappy, not unloved, not mistreated. Broke. After an hour, anger replaced shock. I pressed the nurse call button and asked for my phone. When she brought it, the first thing I did wasn't call Monica. It wasn't check messages. It wasn't even look at the divorce papers again. I opened my banking app, and my stomach dropped. Money had been withdrawn, multiple transactions. Not small ones. Large. Intentional. Some disguised as household expenses, others as membership fees. But I recognized the pattern. Monica had been siphoning money for months. And that wasn't the worst part. While scrolling through my emails, I saw a message from my late uncle's estate lawyer. Please contact us immediately regarding the inheritance transfer. My uncle, who passed away 3 weeks earlier, had left me a massive estate, property, investments, stocks, liquid assets. I'd known vaguely. He told me years ago that I would receive something, but I never knew the exact amount. $47 million. And I hadn't told Monica yet because I was waiting for the formal confirmation before sharing the news. But somehow, she found out first. My hands shook as the pieces came together. She thought I was broke because I froze cards. She stole money because she assumed I wouldn't notice. She filed for divorce immediately after learning about the inheritance. She came to the hospital with papers ready, knowing I was weak, medicated, vulnerable. It wasn't coincidence. It was a plan. But she underestimated one thing. Even as she drained accounts, she didn't know about everything. And she definitely didn't know about the secret I'd kept hidden for 8 years. Something my lawyer and I had intentionally shielded from everyone, including her. And when that secret came out in court, she wouldn't just panic. She would crumble. But before that day came, I had to prepare. And I had to keep my poker face sharp. So when Monica came back the next morning with a fake smile and a styrofoam cup of instant coffee, acting like everything was normal, I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why she betrayed me. I played along. She sat by my bed as if she cared, brushing imaginary crumbs off the blanket. "How are you feeling today?" she asked sweetly. I forced a faint smile. "Better. You should sign the papers soon," she said, patting my hand like I was a senile old man. "It'll be easier for both of us." I nodded, pretending to be too weak to argue. She smiled. She really thought she'd won, that she had beaten me. But she didn't know that while she was busy draining accounts and warming someone else's bed. Oh yes, I discovered that too the moment I checked her location history. I had built something far bigger than our marriage. Something protected. Something untouchable. Something mine. And there was no way in hell she was getting a piece of it. Later that night, while the hospital wing was quiet, I called the one person I trusted more than anyone. My attorney, Jason. He picked up on the first ring. "You finally awake?" he asked. "Barely. I heard about the crash." "You good?" "Define good," I muttered. My wife filed for divorce while hovering over my hospital bed. Jason let out a low whistle. "Damn. She didn't even wait a day." "Nope. And that's not all. She's been stealing from me." "Figures," he said. "And I'm guessing she found out about your uncle's estate?" She filed for divorce the minute she did. Of course she did, Jason sighed. But don't worry. We planned for this. Yes, we did. 8 years ago, before I married Monica, I set up a legal structure, an asset protection trust, shielding part of my business and long-term investments. Monica never knew about it because it was established before she came into the picture, long before we even met. A trust she had zero claim to, zero access, zero rights over. And that wasn't the only secret. Within that trust was something far more important. Something that would flip the entire divorce case upside down and prove that our marriage wasn't what she pretended it was. Jason, I said quietly, when can we file? Immediately. And I'll make sure everything Monica doesn't know comes out at the perfect time. Good, I said, because she's about to learn she screwed with the wrong man. When I hung up, I didn't sleep. I didn't rest. I didn't mourn. I waited, because the moment I stepped into that courtroom, the game would shift. The mask would fall. And Monica, my cheating, stealing, gold-digging soon-to-be ex-wife, would realize that the jackpot she thought she was cashing in was never hers to claim. The day I was discharged from the hospital, Monica insisted on driving me home. Not out of kindness, no, she just wanted to keep up appearances until the divorce was finalized. She needed to pretend she had been a loyal, caring wife so she wouldn't look like the villain when we went to court. But she already was. And soon everyone would see it. She smiled stiffly as she helped me into the passenger seat, but there was no warmth behind it. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone, thumbs flying across the screen. Probably texting the guy she'd been sleeping with. Yeah, I found that bastard too. It didn't even take detective skills. She wasn't exactly subtle. The car ride was silent except for the clicking of her nails on the wheel. She only spoke once, and it wasn't to ask if I was okay. You'll sign the papers soon, right? I didn't look at her. When I'm ready. Don't drag this out, she snapped. The sooner we finalize things, the better. For you, I murmured under my breath. She didn't hear it or pretended not to. When we pulled into the driveway of our home, the home I bought before I ever knew her, she put on another fake smile. I'll make you something to eat, she said. Don't bother. She blinked. I'm trying to help. No, you're trying to get this done quickly. She stiffened, her face twitching before she regained her composure. Whatever. I'll be in the kitchen. She walked inside, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. I didn't follow her. I just sat on the couch, staring at the walls of the place I'd worked my ass off for. Every piece of furniture, every renovation, every bill. I paid for it all. She contributed nothing. But soon, she'd try to claim half of everything. Except she didn't know half of everything didn't include the real money. The protected assets. The inheritance. The trust. The investments she never even had the right to see. Those were off limits. Later that night, after she went to sleep in the guest room. Oh yeah, she didn't even bother pretending to share a bed. I sat alone on the balcony. The city lights flickered beneath a cloudy sky, and the air carried that cold hint of rain. My phone buzzed. Jason, you home? He asked as soon as I answered. Yeah. You need to come by the office tomorrow. Court date is set for next Tuesday. That soon? Oh yeah. Monica's lawyer filed for an emergency dissolution. I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. Emergency. Because she thinks I'm broke. Jason chuckled grimly. That's gonna make this even better. But he wasn't wrong. Monica was rushing because she thought she'd lose her opportunity to grab whatever she could. She wanted spousal support. She wanted property. She wanted bank accounts. She wanted everything a gold digger dreams of. Except I was done being her source of income. She has no idea what's coming, Jason said. She will, I replied. When I hung up, I finally slept. Not peacefully, but steadily enough to get me through the night. The next morning, Monica acted like nothing happened. She made toast for herself, not me. She got dressed in a tight black dress, one I didn't recognize, and spent nearly an hour doing her makeup. She was going somewhere important. Or someone important. Probably him. She glanced at me only once. Don't forget to sign. I didn't respond. She left without a goodbye. The moment she was gone, I called a rideshare to take me to my attorney's office. Jason had already prepared the preliminary filings. Counterpetition for divorce, financial reconstruction, fraud investigation, and a motion to freeze joint accounts until court. I signed everything. Then Jason leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen on the desk. "You ready for this?" he asked. I exhaled slowly. 8 years I kept that secret. 8 years I protected myself without telling her. And she's about to regret every second of those 8 years. "Good," Jason said, "because what we reveal in court will knock her off her high horse." I nodded. "Let's end this." We spent 3 days preparing. Every bank statement, every transaction she stole, every message she sent to the guy she cheated with, every financial document she forged. Everything was organized into folders, color-coded, labeled, ready to be presented. And then, Tuesday came. Walking into the courthouse felt surreal. I expected anxiety, dread, sadness, maybe even guilt. But all I felt was clarity. A cold calmness that settled in my bones the moment I saw Monica standing at the opposite side of the hallway. She wore a white dress, ironically, like she wanted to look innocent. Her lawyer stood beside her, whispering like he was preparing her for a show, because that's all she cared about: appearance. She didn't even notice me approach until Jason said, "Morning." She turned, plastering a smile on her face. "I hope you reconsidered signing." "No," I said flatly. Her smile fell. The bailiff opened the doors. Case 2893, Monica Green versus Daniel Green. We entered. The courtroom was cold. Wooden benches, high ceilings, fluorescent lights. The judge, stern, gray-haired, no nonsense, sat at the bench reviewing the file. "Let's begin." Monica's attorney went first. He painted her as a devoted wife scared for her financial future, stuck in a marriage with a man who recklessly handled money and put her lifestyle at risk. She even dabbed her eyes with a tissue, pretending to cry. I nearly rolled my eyes. Then the judge turned to us. "Mr. Green." Jason stood. "Your Honor, the narrative presented is missing significant details. But before we continue, I'd like to introduce Exhibit A." The judge nodded. Jason opened a thick binder filled with documents. "This is financial evidence showing that Mrs. Green withdrew over $90,000 from the marital accounts over the past several months without Mr. Green's knowledge." The courtroom murmured. Monica stiffened. Her lawyer scrambled. "That's taken out of context. She used those funds for household needs." Jason smirked. "Household needs? Funny, because the charges include luxury spa services, hotel bookings, jewelry, and dinners for two." Monica's face turned red. "Additionally," Jason continued, "we have Exhibit B, location data showing Mrs. Green spending nights at a secondary residence belonging to another man." The judge raised a brow. "Mrs. Green, do you wish to respond to these allegations?" She stuttered. He's twisting things." The judge wasn't convinced. "Continue," he said to Jason. And then came the moment everything changed. Jason pulled out a thin folder, much smaller than the others. "Your Honor, this contains confidential documentation regarding a premarital trust established 8 years ago, long before the marriage. Mrs. Green was never informed of this trust because legally, she had no claim to it." Monica's head snapped toward me, eyes wide. Jason opened the file and continued. "Within this trust is the majority of Mr. Green's long-term assets. These include investments, business shares, and holdings totaling." He paused, letting the silence thicken. $31 million. A loud gasp echoed from Monica. Her cheeks drained of color. Her mouth fell open. She looked like someone had just unplugged her soul. Jason wasn't finished. "And additionally, we have documentation regarding the recent inheritance left to Mr. Green after his uncle's passing. The inheritance also falls under the trust structure, and therefore, again, Mrs. Green has zero legal claim to it." He placed the last document on the judge's desk. "The inheritance totals $47 million. The courtroom went silent, dead silent. Monica swayed, grabbing the table for support. Her face twisted shock, greed, rage, fear, all churning inside her like a storm she couldn't control. Her lawyer leaned close, whispering frantically, probably trying to salvage the disaster. But it was too late. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Mrs. Green, you filed for divorce under the assumption that your husband had no assets. You attempted to secure spousal support under false pretenses. You also concealed financial misconduct." She shook her head wildly. "I didn't know. I thought." "Indeed," the judge said coldly. "You thought he was broke. And yet you were stealing from him." "I wasn't stealing," she cried, voice cracking. He lied." The judge raised a hand. "Enough. The court finds grounds for marital misconduct and financial deception. Mr. Green's protected assets remain his alone. All accounts will be audited, and restitution is required for the funds you withdrew." Monica collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Not out of guilt, out of losing the money she thought she was about to win. Then the judge said something that broke whatever pride she had left. "Spousal support is denied." Her head shot up. "What? You can't." "I can," the judge said sharply. "And I did." Court adjourned. The gavel slammed. Game over. But not for me. For her. As everyone began packing their files, Monica stumbled toward me. How could you hide all that money from me?" she hissed. I looked her dead in the eyes. "The same way you hid the fact you were cheating." She froze. "You're not the victim," I said quietly. "You never were." She opened her mouth to speak. Maybe to beg, maybe to scream. But Jason stepped between us. "We're done here." When we walked out of the courtroom, the weight I'd been carrying for years evaporated. The sky outside was blue, bright, almost mocking in its perfection. I felt lighter, freer. But the story wasn't finished yet. Because when a person tries to ruin your life, and you walk away untouched, they don't just vanish. They come back. And Monica wasn't done trying. Not yet. The relief of walking out of that courthouse didn't last long. Peace never comes easy when someone like Monica is involved. People like her don't accept defeat. They claw, scream, beg, and manipulate until they find a way to sink their nails into something else they can tear apart. But that day, as I stepped into the sunlight, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. Jason clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Hell of a win, man." "Yeah," I exhaled. "But she's not going away quietly." "She can't do anything," he said. "Legally, she's finished." "Legally," I repeated. "But emotionally, she's about to explode." Jason chuckled. "Let her. She can't touch you." He was right. But still, I knew Monica, knew how her mind worked, knew how her obsession with image, luxury, and control poisoned every decision she made. She wouldn't just accept that her perfect plan blew up in her face. She would spiral, and spiraling people are dangerous. But I wasn't afraid, just annoyed. We reached the parking lot, and Jason handed me a set of keys. Not to my car, it was still in the process of being repaired after the crash, but to a rental SUV. "You'll need something to drive for now," he said. "Thanks." As I got inside, I looked back at the courthouse doors. Monica stumbled out moments later, makeup smeared, hair a mess, screaming at her lawyer. The guy looked ready to sprint far, far away from her. I rolled up the window and pulled out of the lot. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally steering my own life again. But peace lasted exactly one day. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of pounding on my front door. Hard, rapid, angry. The kind of knocking that shakes the frame. I didn't need to guess who it was. When I opened the door, Monica pushed her way inside like she still lived there. "You ruined my life," she yelled, hair wild, eyes swollen from crying. She didn't even try to hide the rage. I leaned against the wall, not impressed. "Correction. You ruined your own life. You hid everything from me," she screamed. "You lied. You manipulated me. You cheated," I said calmly. "You stole from me. You filed for divorce when you thought I had no money. Don't play victim now. You could have told me about the trust." she shouted. I laughed short, humorless. Why would I tell someone who sneaks through my bank accounts and drains them without permission? She flinched. I was your wife, she snapped. You were a partner when it benefited you, I replied. A wife doesn't sleep in hotel rooms with other men. A wife doesn't send money to someone behind her husband's back. A wife doesn't show up to a hospital bed with divorce papers. She froze, guilt flickering across her face, but only for a second. Then the entitlement returned. You owe me something, she shrieked. I owe you nothing. She clenched her fists, breathing hard. You really think you can just walk away? That I'll let you humiliate me in court? I'm not done. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Yes, Monica, you are. You can't talk to me like that. It's my house. I cut in. Not yours. Never was. And you don't live here anymore. The court order was clear. Her lip trembled with fury. I will burn you for this. No, I said. You already tried. Now get out. She stormed past me, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. Her engine roared as she peeled out of the driveway like a furious teenager. For a moment, silence filled the house. Then I sighed. This wasn't over. The following week was filled with paperwork, estate meetings, and endless calls. My uncle's inheritance was finally transferred into the trust, and handling $47 million wasn't something you just casually do over a lunch break. Financial advisors, estate managers, legal analysts. It was a circus, but a necessary one. In the middle of it all, I kept track of Monica's movements. Not because I missed her, but because I knew she'd try something desperate. Sure enough, trouble showed up fast. Jason called one night, voice tight. She filed a motion. For what? To overturn the trust protection. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. On what grounds? She claims the trust was created in bad faith. 8 years before I met her, I said flatly. Exactly. The judge already threw it out. But she's spiraling. I rubbed my temple. She's not going to stop. No, Jason agreed. But she also doesn't have the resources to keep this up. Her lawyer dropped her after the hearing. She's representing herself now. I smirked. Of course. When people like Monica lose money, they lose stability. When they lose stability, they lose their sense of self. And when they lose that, they start grasping at the strangest forms of revenge. I didn't have to wait long to see her next attempt. It was a Thursday night, and I was sitting in my office organizing documents when I saw motion on the security camera feed. Someone was at the front gate. I tapped the screen. Monica, soaked from rain, mascara dripping, hair frizzy, wearing a jacket too thin for the storm. She buzzed the intercom repeatedly, pressing the button like she wanted to break it. I sighed, pressing the speaker. What do you want now? Her voice cracked through the speaker, panicked and angry. Let me in. No. I swear, the silence in that courtroom felt like somebody had sucked all the air out of the place. Even the judge leaned forward, elbows on the bench, eyes drilling into Melissa like he was trying to see straight through her skin. She looked frozen, hands shaking, mascara smudged, breathing loud enough for the whole damn room to hear. And me? I just sat there, calm, quiet, hands folded, because this was the moment I'd been waiting 8 damn years for. My lawyer, Clark, didn't even sit down. He paced slow, like he was giving her time to understand the magnitude of what she just heard. Mrs. Davis, he said, voice cool like ice dragged over marble. You willingly pursued divorce, demanded the house, demanded alimony, demanded half of the inheritance. All while knowing you had been cheating, stealing marital funds, and forging signatures. And you believed my client was too weak, too sick, too naive to defend himself. She tried to speak. I didn't. You don't understand, But the judge shut her down with one hand. I heard the evidence. Please remain silent. That was the first time I ever saw real fear crawl across Melissa's face. The type that hits you when you realize you're not the one holding the cards anymore. When you finally understand the universe ain't revolving around you like you thought. Clark clicked a button, and another slide popped up on the projector. A document. Thick legal paper. Stamped. Signed. My marriage contract. Not the simple prenup that Melissa remembered signing. No, the amended prenup. The one I added 5 years into the marriage. The one she signed without reading because she was too busy yelling at a DoorDash driver on the phone and trying to buy a luxury purse on sale. Her voice cracked. I never saw that. That's fake. He forged. Sit down. The judge's voice boomed. Her ass hit the chair so fast the legs screeched. Clark flipped the page. If you take advantage of the marriage through infidelity, theft, deception, or financial exploitation, you waive all rights to spousal support, assets, inheritance, or marital property. Everything returns to the rightful owner. She shook her head. No. And oh, he tricked me. The judge cut her off again. Mrs. Davis, do you deny this is your signature? Her eyes darted desperately, looking for escape, for a lie that made sense, for something, anything that could save her. But she had nothing. Finally, she whispered, voice shredded, "It's my signature." The courtroom felt electric. Folks in the back started whispering. Some even gasped. You'd think they were watching a season finale of some wild courtroom drama show. Except this wasn't TV. This was the real consequences of her own damn choices finally catching up. Clark didn't even smile. He just turned the page again. Another document. Another surprise. This, he said, holding it up, is the 8-year secret. Melissa's eyes widened. The judge leaned forward. Even I felt my heart thump. This, Clark continued, is a trust document drafted 8 years ago when my client received his first inheritance. Not the $47 million. The one before that. Melissa's jaw dropped. Even the judge blinked. First, he repeated. Clark nodded. Yes, Your Honor. 8 years ago, my client inherited $9.3 million from his late uncle. He placed all of it in a secured trust. One his wife could not touch, could not see, could not legally gain access to. And do you know why? He turned slowly toward her. Because even back then, he already suspected her intentions. She looked shattered, like the world had tilted and tossed her right off the edge. And I didn't enjoy it, not in a petty way. It wasn't satisfaction. It was release, relief, closure. The kind you get after carrying a weight on your shoulders for so long you forget it's even there. Clark continued, voice steady. He never told her. He kept his finances modest on purpose. He lived below his means on purpose. He wanted to see if she was with him for love or for lifestyle. Melissa whispered, "You lied to me." I finally raised my head. "No," I said quietly. "I tested you, and you failed." The room went dead silent again. And then Clark delivered the final blow. "Your Honor, given these revelations, and given her violations of the marriage contract, infidelity, theft, financial manipulation, we request the following. Divorce granted immediately. All marital assets revert to my client. Mrs. Davis receives nothing. Mrs. Davis must repay the funds she stole. Mrs. Davis is responsible for all court fees." Melissa's breath hitched like she'd been punched. That's impossible," she croaked. "I'll be homeless. You can't do that. You can't." The judge folded his hands. "Mrs. Davis, you filed for divorce. You filed while your husband was hospitalized. You attempted to secure half of a multimillion-dollar inheritance after committing fraud and infidelity. You signed away your rights." He took his glasses off. "And you must now accept the consequences." She shook her head violently. "No, please, please, I'm sorry, I thought he was broke." "That," the judge said coldly, "is precisely the problem." The gavel hit the block. Divorce granted. All terms approved. Boom. Her legs gave out. She slid to the floor, sobbing so loud the bailiff had to help her up. I didn't look at her again. I didn't need to. The chapter was closed. But fate, life, karma, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't done yet. When we exited the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters angled microphones toward me. Sir, how does it feel to leave with everything?" I didn't stop. Didn't smile. Didn't flex. I just walked. Clark put a hand on my shoulder. "Ready to hear the rest?" he asked. I nodded. Because yeah, the $47 million inheritance wasn't the end either. Turns out my dad had set up a secondary trust. One that would only activate after the divorce was finalized. One meant for protecting the legacy of the family name. A trust worth another $25 million. I just stood there on the sidewalk, cars buzzing by, wind pushing through my hair. I had gone from nearly dying in a hospital bed to being free, wealthy, and finally respected. But money wasn't the win. Peace was. Silence was. Freedom was. The old me? The one who let things slide, who kept quiet, who let people walk over him. He died in that hospital room. The man standing outside that courthouse was different. Stronger, clearer, calmer. And then fate did the weirdest damn thing. Melissa came outside. Not screaming, not threatening, just defeated, small, hollow. She walked up slow like she wasn't sure she was allowed to exist in the same air as me. When she finally reached me, she whispered, "I messed up." I didn't respond. She kept going, voice trembling like a cracked glass. "I didn't love the money, I swear. I loved the comfort, the stability, the feeling that everything was taken care of. But I didn't love you the right way. I know that. I was stupid. I ruined everything. I ruined myself. Still, I didn't speak. Because nothing I said could change the truth." She wiped her face with shaking hands. "I thought you were weak. And you were the strongest man I ever had." Her voice fell to a whisper. "Goodbye." She turned and walked away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel anger, or hurt, or betrayal. I felt nothing, just peace. A year later, I sat on a balcony overlooking the coastline, sun dipping into the horizon, waves crashing below, a glass of iced tea in my hand. My phone buzzed on the table. I ignored it. I wasn't living life by emergencies anymore. I wasn't living for someone else's expectations. I was living for me. And here's the truth everybody learns eventually. Some losses are blessings. Some endings are beginnings. And sometimes the people who hurt you the most were sent to teach you the value of letting go. Melissa taught me that. Without her betrayal, I never would have discovered my strength. Without her greed, I never would have uncovered the full inheritance. Without her lies, I never would have learned how to build boundaries, protect myself, and stand tall. And without her walking away, I never would have stepped into the life I was truly meant to live. The world is quiet now, calm, beautiful, and for the first time ever, so am I. If you loved this story and want more wild, emotional, twist-packed narratives like this, stories of revenge, betrayal, justice, and triumph, just tell me "make next story," and I'll drop another full multi-segment cinematic banger for you instantly.